DNVR Bets Daily. It's RK and Professor Dre coming to you for another episode. It was what become a really, light part of my day. A really bright spot for me, Andre, is hopping on with you here on a daily basis, talking about sports betting. As you might be able to glean from the eyewear, things aren't going great. The KBO giveth, the KBO taketh away.
True.
I go 3-0. 2 nights ago,
Yeah.
I followed up with 0-3. I was so bummed about that because I woke up and I'm like, all right, just give me 1-2, and I'll be able to say I'm 4-2 over the last 2 days, and that's okay. I can live with that. But nope, followed it up with an 0-3. I said it's akin to you hit a birdie on the golf course, and then on the very next hole you double bogey. And It's just like, man, I just undid all that progress. What up, Mike? Michael from Broncos Europe checking in. So tough, just tough. That's why I got this. Yeah, I'm trying out a new pair of glasses. And you've heard about, the book taking a cut. Well, your boy took a cut today. Another, just really not my day. My day started with waking up and checking 0-3 on the scores. I then sliced my finger right open. Just a good old slice. And then I had to officially say goodbye to my car of like 8 years. It was just time for her to go to the farm, if you know what I'm saying. So it hasn't been a great day for me, Andre.
Wow. Well, I didn't realize we were both experiencing kind of crazy days, because this is the day where in our cul-de-sac, they're completely redoing the pipes to the whole neighborhood. So from 9 to 5, we could not run water. We could not flush the toilet. So we each had an assigned toilet. Luckily, the little one's still on diapers, so we didn't need a third in the mix. We've got the sprinkler system
Hold
going.
on. Why wouldn't you I don't think you handled this the right way.
Oh, okay. Lay it on me.
I think you needed to go to like a rest. I guess you can't.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying, Ryan. Any other regular Wednesday, this would be no big deal. I legitimately thought of going to our old offices here.
Yes. Why wouldn't you do that?
I don't know. I don't even know if the lease is up on that. Yeah.
No, we're good. We still got that place.
We stood strong, and they were done early. So luckily, but if you saw my tweet about this that I put out, I did create a metric, which was BMs taken in a non-flush toilet, plus poopy diapers changed, plus number of losses you suffered last night, equals how bad your day is going. I was rocking a solid 6 because I went 2-4 on the KBO. Damn KBO, the overs. Right when I picked 2 unders, I picked 2 overs, and then I got sucked into the Dinos money line. That was tied 1-1 into the 11th inning. So what's it even matter? There's my phenomenal math on the new metric I've created. About as sound a metric as I've been able to produce on this show in about a week now. So there's that for you. Yeah, the unders hit, as you put it in a text to me privately. It was like opposite night in the KBO. 2-3, I would have been fine. The money line on those damn Dinos tied up into the 11th inning, and they lose to the Doosan Bears. What can you do, man? What can you do?
Yeah, that's the only one that I have a little bit of solace over, just because now but my Twins lost too, so they didn't help themselves at all. What the hell were they doing? I think they scored 1 run against Samsung Lions. It was opposite day. It was really opposite day in the KBO, and you know what? Mama said there'd be days like this, and that is not an update. There it is. There's the updated graphic, and look at that. I'm right in this year 2020, which is not a good omen by any stretch of the mind, considering this is the worst year in recent memory.
Hopefully it means our vision is 2020 going into this, and that aligns with our new eyewear as well. Also, fun stat, Dinos Bears, that series alone has lost me 3 picks in the last 2 days. So thanks,
Dinos Bears are all over the place. I cannot believe they scored 1 run. The Dinos have just been cranking. Maybe I'll just let Michael from Broncos Europe just take over my spot on the show. He's got picks, and they might be better than mine have been. Well, I guess mine were great just 2 nights ago. I'm really down. It's the day. The day's getting the best of me, Andre.
You got to ride that roller coaster. Can't get too high, can't get too low. I almost feel more comfortable after a losing day because I know that the come up is just around the corner.
That's true. That's very true. And new eyewear, I feel like my record after putting on new eyewear is off the charts.
Yeah, I couldn't find the dad hat yesterday. Now it's back. I'm feeling really good vibes today.
I'm feeling good vibes today too.
There you go.
Not really, but you know I can fake it. Sometimes you just have to convince yourself that you're feeling good vibes.
That's
okay,
right.
We're gonna talk running back rushing totals today, and there's some interesting lines out here. I want to start with this one, which maybe not is the most compelling player, but I think we're on opposite sides of this based off of our conversation before. Yes. So we start with Arizona Cardinals running back Kenyan Drake, who is set at over under 1,050.5. I'll let you start.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting about Drake is once he really started to get the ball full time for the Dolphins last season. And, you know, this is a pretty high line for a guy who in the end, ended up with under 1,000 yards, has never gone over 1,000. He wasn't even the running back one at Alabama. I don't think he ever went over 1,000 yards in his career through college and the pros. But once he started to get the ball full time in that Dolphins offense, he did
in the Cardinals offense.
The Cardinals offense, yes, I apologize. And that was all, David Johnson's injury kind of opened up the spot. It took about 8 weeks for him to get the ball. And then finally, in the second half of the season, he started averaging 15 attempts per game, which isn't a ton. That's not bell cow. But with just 15 carries per game, he did average 80 yards per game just on the ground. If he can maintain that kind of pace throughout a 16-game season, you're looking at 1,280-yard back. And that's 200 yards to play with here. I think that's intriguing, and I think that's why he's kind of the smaller name back on this list. Everyone else is kind of a bigger name or in a bigger market. I think that's why Drake is here, because the people who have followed him, maybe those fantasy players, people who had an eye on him towards that second half of the season, I think are intrigued by the over here, and so am I.
So I understand everything you're saying there. A couple things that I want to point out. One, he had 2 really big games in that 5-game stretch. So that's what scares me a little bit about the sample size there is he had, 3 really average games and 2 really big ones. And I don't know how that's going to bear out over a 16-game season. And the truth is, the evidence would say that he's, capable of some big games here and there and then tapers off, which is why he kind of fell out of favor there in Miami.
Right.
Here's the other thing, and I'm kind of calling my shot here. But there is another back who landed in Arizona that I think is really going to compete for some carries from Kenyan Drake, and that's Eno Benjamin, the running back out of Arizona State, who is my favorite prototype for a running back. Very short, stout, really quick feet. Super dangerous in the Pac-12. I was honestly pretty surprised he fell as far as he did. I think they got him in the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah,
probably
they got him late. Yeah,
and I think this guy's going to come in and compete for carries, and right away off the bat. And he's such a good fit for that offense that I think if he is who I think he is, he could, quickly be in a battle for the number 1 running back spot. And if that happens, there's no way Kenyan Drake hits this number.
That is interesting. Yeah, and what has me fascinated is just 15 carries per game. But you're right. Those final 2 games where he went over like almost 300 yards, those played a big part in this. And he's a boomer bust producer. He's kind of like a volume shooter. Some nights he'll have a big night, and there'll be other games where he's going to be a little off. So you're going to have to sweat this one out a little bit. But there's some intrigue for sure in this line. So you're taking the under. I'm taking the over. Yeah,
we're going to have someone go back and track, because we've been tracking all of our Broncos-focused ones and all of our, obviously, daily bets. But I don't know if we've done a good job of tracking our over-unders when we did the quarterbacks, the wide receivers yesterday, and the running backs here. This is it's a long process, but we got to see who turns out to be right in the end here.
I'll get an intern on it right away.
Thank you. Okay, the next one that we have listed here, Dalvin Cook, over under 1,160.5. Where are you feeling on this one, Dre? I have to say, I looked at these lines and I only had 2 that I had really strong feelings on.
This
was not one of them.
What I really think the key here is for Dalvin Cook, who last season finally healthy in a good offense, kind of playing up to expectations, 1,135. That's in 14 games, exactly 250 carries. I do think without Stephon Diggs, with kind of a younger team, and with Gary Kubiak there, Dalvin Cook is poised for a breakout season to have a career year and exceed this. The one concern is going to be injuries, and we do have a bit less of a margin for error. I mean, this was right around what he produced a season ago in 14 games, which I think is about what you want to average. He's still just 24. It'll be kind of his second year in this offense. So I think the arrow's pointing up, and it'll be only his second full season. So I think the margin for having a big year from Dalvin are all there in this offense, but those injuries do concern.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, the injuries have been such an issue for him throughout his career, and injuries play such a huge role in this type of bet that I wouldn't feel comfortable going with the over, just because there's such a high chance of, one injury knocks him out 4 weeks, you're done. And I actually wonder, I'd love to talk to a bookmaker on how they set this. Do they, what am I looking for? Do they bake in injuries into these lines so that someone can't profit off of taking all the unders and just, here's the way I look at it. If all these are about 50-50 chance of succeed or fail, and then injuries are an added, an added variable, could you profit off of going under on everything? And then, getting the boost from the few injuries that happen, then of course splitting most of the other ones and ending up on top.
It's not a terrible, especially with running backs, that's not a terrible theory. Because the under there's just a baked in safety there because of the injury factor, So I kind of like that theory there.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I just wonder if a bookmaker would say, yeah, we usually expect them to miss 2 to 4 games over the course of a season. So we, average it out at about 3 and then kind of adjust the numbers accordingly while also protecting ourselves for the perfect 16-game season. It's just interesting. I just wonder if anyone's employed that strategy before, and if that's forced the books to correct for it a little bit.
Doesn't really seem like it on these kind of numbers where it's right around what Dalvin Cook produced a year ago.
For sure.
So the under does seem safer, but Cook specifically, I think you could have a nice opportunity here.
All right, the next one we have is LeVeon Bell. This is the lowest number we have. It's at 850.5. Andre, what are you feeling?
Oh, man. And, big name, big market. I wanted to go back to LeVeon because, again, he wouldn't have hit the over last season, but first year in a new offense, his quarterback goes out for the mono stuff. I wanted to see, once Sam Darnold came back after week 6, how did LeVeon Bell produce? What pace was he on? Not much better than the pace he was on during the rest of the season. You're looking at 848 projected yards if he were to keep the same pace. Plus injury concerns. He's the oldest running back we have on this list. I think I got to take the under, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, the under man, I don't know. This is, again, not one that I feel great about. The under has a lot going for it.
Yes.
But we're also talking about LeVeon Bell, one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, and it's just like, okay, is he over the hill? If he's over the hill, you have a great chance of hitting this. My other question is, what are the other options out there in New York? And it's not great.
Yeah.
So they kind of want to make it work with LeVeon Bell. They're going to give him every opportunity to make it work. So I'm kind of just waffling back and forth here. I can see both sides of it. But again, going back to kind of what I just said, especially for an injury-prone guy, 50-50, if I got to go one way, I'm going to go the under just because 4 games, 5 games is all it takes to, really put him out of the running for this.
This is a team that added Frank Gore too. And, there was early on when the signing first came, Adam Gase was kind of against it, was the report that came after. So yeah, I just think if anything, he's going to be most utilized in the passing game, and the rushing will suffer. I like the under quite a bit here.
All right, what do we?
Into it.
All right, you talked yourself into the under. Okay, what do we have next? Nick Chubb. Maybe one of the most underrated running backs in the NFL, but not being underrated here. 1,350.5 on the over-under for his rushing yards. Let me hear it.
1,494 last season, though. And really, his star power didn't start till about mid-season. Now he's going to have even more of a focus on the running game with the Stefanski offense. They've added a bunch of tight ends, so I think you're going to see even heavier sets. He's clearly kind of the star of the offense, even though he's like the fourth most well-known name of the bunch. And so, yeah, I like the over here. I think you've got a lot to play with, especially considering that, injuries would be a problem. But even on a 14-game pace, I think Chubb could easily hit this with the emphasis on the run game.
Yeah, again, I mentioned it. He's wildly underrated for a guy who has put up the type of numbers that he has. He doesn't really look the part. I think that's part of this. He pretty much has no swag on Sundays, just kind of puts on his uniform and goes out there. He doesn't look particularly speedy. He's not particularly powerful in one way or another, but something about just the way that he is, he puts it all together in a really nice way. It turns out to be a really fantastic running back in the NFL, but there's not one thing about him that like blows everyone away. So that to me is kind of why he's underrated. That's just my guess. But for me, I go over here. Like you kind of pointed out, he is a really big contender to get a ton of carries, and they're going to up that offense. And when done right, it's a super running back friendly offense. So maybe, just maybe, it clicks for them in year one in the way that it used to for so many young Mike Shanahan running backs in a similar offense, and he just goes off.
Yeah, that's the feeling I'm getting here with Chubb as well.
The one thing that does scare me a little bit is that this system is not plug and play. It's not exactly the easiest system for offensive linemen to learn, maybe as much as anyone. Quarterbacks and offensive linemen can struggle with this system a little bit. So that's the one thing that gives me pause. You're kind of betting a little bit on the coaching staff there to be able to get this in. And man, I don't know. There's a little part of me that fears, are all numbers going to be down across the league because there was so much less practice time? Defense, obviously practice is really important, but it's pretty straightforward. Go out there and stop them from moving the ball forward. Offense is so complex that there is a little bit of me that fears what might happen if a place like Cleveland doesn't have proper practice time to put this system in.
Yeah, and of course, the counter argument is, as we've seen less tackling, less preparation in the offseason, we've found that offenses in the first month are really lighting defenses on fire because they need to get kind of the reps and the tackling and getting up to speed. And then defenses pick up their play kind of after September. So it'll be really interesting to see that. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be down or up. That's going to be an interesting trend to monitor.
All right, next one we have here is the next one that I have a take on, and that's Saquon Barkley. Over under 1250 and a half. I feel very, very strongly about the over here. Yes, I do. I think they're going to lean on him even more heavily in this new offense with the new coaching staff. I think there's going to be less throwing to the running back. Not like they're going to cut it out or anything, but that's one of Pat Shurmur's favorite things to do is to throw the ball to the running back. That's going to cut down, which will result in his carries going up. 1,300 yards as a rookie. Obviously, injuries played a part last year. But I think, we have a chance to be looking at a 1,500-yard rusher here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I went back and forth on this one, back and forth, and it's a stay away for me, and I kind of felt like the two biggest name running backs on this list, I think, are Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott, who we haven't talked about yet. Both of those, though, kind of felt like stayaways, just too much popularity. I could see an argument on either side. I could see what you're saying, where Saquon just has a big year, but I don't know. I don't trust Jason Garrett. I don't trust that offense. I think teams will key in on him. So, yeah, this is a stay away from me.
All right, fair enough. Next one we have here is a guy that we talked about the other day,
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Over under 1,300.5.
So he's only gone over this number once in his career. That was last year, where he just was getting, got an absurd number of touches. We've talked about this. This new coaching staff is not in any hurry to have, overutilize McCaffrey because they need to win now. No, they're playing the long game. The other thing, and you mentioned this in the Colorado running back special episode that we talked about. If you haven't listened to that, go back and hear that. Joe Barry's offense, and this isn't what you said. This is
Brady.
the side tangent. Joe
Brady.
Right. What he did at LSU, the new offensive coordinator for the Panthers, was they would play a lot of empty sets. And you mentioned this. McCaffrey is probably going to transition to be more of a wide receiver, and he plays that transition will be perfect for this system, because what worked at LSU was they'd go empty set, so you really spread them out. There's no running back in the backfield, and then you just attack these 5 wide formations. And I think they think Bridgewater can do what Burrow did and just be smart in taking advantage of these one-on-ones. And McCaffrey's the perfect back to do this in. So I think he might break some NFL records in receptions and receiving yards for a running back this season. But I think his usage as a runner out the backfield will be going down. So, yeah, I just don't see this overhitting.
Yep, I'm with you. And it really goes back to that last point you made. If you are trying to get Christian McCaffrey 22 touches a game, you're going to say, okay, how many of these touches do we want just to be runs between the tackles? That's going to be the smallest amount of touches for me. How many of these do we want to be outside runs? That's going to be a little bit bigger. And then the truth is, how many do we want these to be catches? And that's might be the biggest number in a per game basis when you include screens, little Texas routes, and just other things, to try and get him the ball in open space. The goal with Christian McCaffrey is to get him in open space, because his vision is off the charts and his speed is crazy. And once he gets out there, it's, all bets are off. So you want to cut, if you're pulling touches from a certain area, I'm pulling them from runs between the tackles. And that is why I think his rushing yards are going to go down this year. You take those touches away from the touches that have the least amount of percentage chance of going big, and those are, of course, runs between the tackles. So I think those go down. Catches might even go up a little bit, and outside runs stay about the same. And you find him somewhere in a much more reasonable place than he was last year, but the rushing yards do suffer.
Yeah, no, completely. And this might be the one I like the most, because there's no built-in, we're not projecting any regression as far as a playing standpoint, but we see this as just a usage matter, and that's why I really feel good about this under.
All right. Do we have one more, or is that it?
No, Zeke's the only other one I have on my list, but as I mentioned while we were talking about Saquon, that one just feels like a stay away. I think in this new offense, they're going to pass the ball around a lot, and they're going to try and maintain Zeke kind of fresh for that playoff push. It's no coincidence they've drafted a couple different young running backs over the last couple years.
Yeah, I mean, I actually probably go under in that one if you're making me pick.
Right, gun to my head, same.
I don't feel great about it, but I do think, man, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb, who we talked about yesterday, those guys need their touches. You're going to have to get them the ball. Less so Gallup, but especially Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, you got to get those guys touches. You're hurting yourself every time that you don't give them a touch. And, of course, Zeke is the same way. But I think they probably just try to maintain Zeke a little bit more, not wear him down too early.
Yep. I'm with you, man.
All right. Shall we get back on this KBO horse?
I'm so ready.
All right. Let me know what you got.
Okay. We're mixing it up. This isn't the same old blanket taking all the overs nonsense that we've been doing. It's time to get real. I like the Giants and the Twins to win outright. I'm taking the money line there. That's Giants and Twins. Giants facing off against the Samsung Lions. And Twins facing off against the Samsung Lions. Giants facing off against the Kia Tigers. Both the pitchers starting for the Tigers and Lions rocking an ERA over 5. So I really like that. Then I like the under for Eagles, KT Wiz. I see another bit of a pitching duel, 2 strong pitchers out there, both on their 3rd outing. So we've got a little more of a sample size there. So give me the under there. And then I'm taking the over. I'm back to taking the over on Dinos Bears. I'm back to taking the over on Wyverns Heroes.
So are you in on every game?
Every game.
All right.
I've either got a money line under or over. And I go 5-0. I'm back over 500.
There you go. That is not the way to look at this, but you know what?
That's right.
I'll be pulling for you. Okay.
I appreciate it, brother.
I am going with a very similar lineup to what I had last night. I think, like I said, yesterday was opposite day.
Mm-hmm.
Today is regular day. And so I'm going Heroes -1.5.
Nice.
Twins money line.
Okay.
And Dinos money line.
So we're on the same thinking with the 2 money lines.
Yes. Yep. Perfect. Those are the 3. I think, the upset or the lesser teams all came through last night. That's how I went over. It's all going to flip on its head tonight and get us right back on track. So and get me to hopefully 6-3 over the last couple days.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
All right. Well, unless you've got some sort of table tennis or Faroe Islands or some other sort of crazy pick you want to throw at us.
How I would long for some Faroe Islands. I do have some stats from the good people at DraftKings about the KBO. The most bet on teams are our favorite bet on teams. The Dinos Bears, most bet on teams. Surprisingly, Heroes, 3rd most bet on teams. Least bet on teams, Eagles, Lions, and SK Wyverns.
What about Twins? You didn't say Twins.
Twins are right there in the middle, 5th most bet on team.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us on this edition of DNVR Bets Daily. We thank you guys for tuning in, and of course, we will talk to you soon. As you guys know, we're working with DraftKings Sportsbook, so make sure you download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use the code DNVR when you sign up. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. The deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800